Hello, comic art fans. This is Kevin Sharp. I'm here today with artist Paul Pope to talk about a page he loves. Paul, welcome to the CAF Plus channel. We're so happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation.
It's been a journey for you and I to get together, but we made it in the
Yeah,
end.
true, true. And yeah, we've been talking about getting on your show for a while, but I thought it'd make more sense to wait till there's something tangible people could actually, go to the store and find after we talk.
Sounds good. So, could you introduce for the viewers the page and the title we're going to be talking about today?
It's a page from Italian cartoonist and artist Guido Crepax, and it's a page from his one of his most well-known books, Valentina the Pirate, or Valentina Pirata in Italian. It's done in 1976, although the series started in the mid 60s, and really iconic for the pop art era, the swinging 60s. He's one of my favorite artists. We can go into detail about some of the values in his art, but it's a page that I like a lot, and it definitely had an impact on me when I first saw it as a kid.
Tell us about finding it as a kid. I think maybe some people would be surprised to hear that kids would encounter European comics
Mm.
because it just wouldn't be as readily available. So tell us how this came into your life at first.
In the 70s, National Lampoon magazine was very successful. They were selling in the millions on newsstands. And then they somehow got linked up with Mobius and Drouillet for the French magazine Metal Hurlant, which became heavy metal. National Lampoon was the original licensor for heavy metal, which was a funnel for anybody who wanted to look at comics that were a little bit not quite underground comics like Robert Crumb, Gilbert Shelton, not mainstream comics like Chris Claremont Byrne. So in the late 70s, heavy metal was on newsstands, and they were featuring some of the best of the Europeans. If you were a kid or some comics fan in the late 70s, early 80s, this was the place to find the translations of really some of the cream of the crop from Europe. So yeah, my mom was pretty liberal, and she let me buy heavy metal and Epic magazine and Creepy and Warren, like kind of the more like ground level they called them comics at the time. And you could find heavy metal because the distribution, it wasn't like comics in the old days where you had to find a spinner rack. And then that's where I first saw Crepax.
As we speak now, the viewers will see the page you've chosen on the screen. So let's dive in. This is quite a dynamic choice,
Mm,
Paul.
hmm
Can you
hmm
walk us through kind of what appeals to you about what's on the page here?
Yeah, this was from Crepax's book, Valentina the Pirate, which is how I first discovered it, I think in 1982. So I would have been 11 or 12. So I think initially this page was in black and white, and then it was because it was a success, Crepax colored it, watercolor or ink dyes. And this story is his character Valentina is a photographer, and she kind of winds up in these sort of like dreamy, kind of slightly soft core situations in all kinds of settings. This one is sort of a really fantastic because it has nods to Winsor McCay, to Italian Renaissance art, H.G. Wells, all sorts of different things, and it's really fanciful. And as a kid, I hated his style. I really couldn't stand him. I also hated Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, a lot of like the kind of the I call them grotesque artists. Like if your style is more idiosyncratic, like his work, you couldn't really compare it to Kurt Swan, Neil Adams or something. Crepax's style is a little more self-taught, you might say. Crepax came up through advertising and album cover art in the 60s. And so the page we're looking at here is in the middle of the story. Valentina's in sort of this fantasy where she's sort of semi-clad, wearing knight's armor, riding on a horse, and she's sort of encircling this bathyscaphe slash spaceship thing. And I like this page because it's dynamic. I've also seen this page in person, which helps because I've actually seen the document, right? Not just the printed page. So I'd estimate this page is probably somewhere around 22 inches by maybe 30, not quite 30 inches tall, but a pretty large page, poster size for sure. And I like this page because the dynamic composition really moves your eye through the top panel with our horse and heroine moving to the right, and then we circle back through that nice rounded shape of the sphere, which is mirrored in the two inset circle panels with Valentina's portraits. And then the second panel, we're moved back over to the left composition. Then we get the repetition of the circle form, which takes us back to that really cool panel where Valentina and the horse, I think to suggest that they're in zero gravity, we see them at a 90-degree angle. So it's a very strange composition, very pleasing to look at. If you look at Crepax's work, he is consistently very inventive with his page layouts. So I've always, as I got older, I gravitated towards Crepax more than a lot of the others. He's, in my mind, he's on the level of Mobius or the other, Hugo Pratt, the other great European masters. And I return to his work quite a bit. I think there's a lot of secrets in his work. In the same way, like when you can crack the code on Winsor McCay, of course, one of the seminal early cartoonists, there's so much interesting stuff, even in the mistakes, that really makes a masterclass of studying page composition. It doesn't function the way that we normally think of Western three-tier comic book pages with splash pages. And, he's using sound effects here, but I just love how integrated the sound effects are into the overall design composition of the page. And again, I saw this at Philippe Lebon's gallery last year. He had an exhibit of all Crepax work. And for me, that was like Christmas and Halloween at the same time, because he's really, I'd say, one of my top 3 or 4 cartoonists. I was even tempted to buy this page, although I'm not in a position in life where I should start buying art. So I just admired it from afar.
Why don't we transition over to your work? Tell us first about the
Yeah.
Crepax tribute that you
Ah,
did, and where viewers could see that up close if they're interested.
yeah. So I did the page I did is an amalgam of 2 different pages from another series of Crepax called Justine. His work in the late 60s, mid to late 60s, I think is some of his best. He's working with a heavier brush. And again, his strange page compositions, they're all sort of like slightly asymmetrical. There's a sequence I really like a lot, again, with this sense of movement that we saw with the Valentina page. In this case, I like this. There's something strange about this whole sequence where women are in a race with sidecar motorcycles, while this other woman, and they're in like a racetrack, and in the center is this weird woman with a gun pointing the gun at the women. Of course, they're all half naked, as Italian cartoonists tend to draw their women. This is a composite of 2 different pages. So the top half is from one of the pages, and the bottom half is the second page when you flip it over. And I thought the movement was, I don't want to say improved, because I don't think I can improve upon Crepax, but I I was very interested in collage at the time, and so I collaged 2 separate pages into one composition. I traced as closely as I could all of the marks that Crepax put down, including the sound effects, and then I, as faithfully as possible, recreated this new composition in his style in order to see what fits in my own style. And so that was a really good exercise. I recommend to any cartoonist, if you really want to understand Jack Kirby, get a light board and trace the Jack Kirby drawing as closely as possible, and then ink it as closely as possible. And you learn all kinds of amazing things with this study. So this page I did for my comic THB. It was just a backup page. And it's now in print in my art monograph, which came out in March of this year, March 2025. And it's in my book Pulp Hope 2. And it's just a page I'm really happy with. I never got to meet Crepax, but I'd like to think he would have thought this was pretty cool.
I think we all might look at this and say it's pretty cool. What else do you have coming up that viewers could
Ah,
be on the lookout for?
my next series I'm very excited about. I've got a number of, I've said this elsewhere, but this is like the chessboard year, because I've had a lot of projects in the works that are finally starting to see the light of day. So I just had a gallery exhibit here in New York at the Philippe Le Bon Gallery again. We showed a retrospective of my stuff. It served as the opening for the art book. They have copies of the art book there. You can buy the art book anywhere, really, from your local comic shop to Barnes and Noble to Amazon. And then I'm shifting gears now to promote Total THB through First Second's new imprint, 23rd Street Books, which is the adult wing. My other books in the Battling Boy series are at First Second, which is more young adult oriented. And we're doing a great job with the series. So the first of the 4 or 5 THB books comes out this November. And I'm starting to shift to promote THB. I'm very happy. We shot I have all 1,000 plus pages of original art. And I had them in storage in Ohio, brought everything back to New York. We reshot everything from the originals. They look really, really good. The formats are large, 7 by 10. So it's closer to the French bande dessinée size. And then I'll be at Baltimore Comic Con this October to promote THB and see people. I haven't done a whole lot of conventions recently, so it's, that's going to be interesting to go back. I love the Baltimore show. I haven't been there probably for a decade.
Paul, I want to thank you again for joining us on the show and
Yeah,
walking us through this page. Well, pages, plural.
yeah,
We really appreciate you being here and taking the time.
yeah. I love it. Thanks. I love this format. It's such a creative, interesting way to share a love of comics, between practitioners and the readers and the fans and other practitioners. So thanks a lot. I really love it.